Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm Amy Revell. I'm the owner of The Art of Decluttering and your podcast host. I also run our amazing team here at The Art of Decluttering. We've just completed a team survey where we kind of just gauge the temperature of how our team are going, what they're loving, what they're not loving. And I was it just filled my heart to read their responses of how much they love serving you, our community, how much they love working in homes and seeing clients just have that freedom from clutter that might be stopping them from doing the things they love, spending money on the things they love, engaging with the people they love. And so I've just got a full heart. I've also just come back today from speaking at a lifestyle community, so a retirement community. I've done a couple of those in the last few weeks. And today, when this episode drops, I'm actually going to be in Queensland. So for those of you who are overseas, that is basically me going from cold Melbourne, jumping on a plane for about 2 hours and going north up to what's called the Sunshine Coast. And it is as beautiful as it sounds, and I'm doing some workshops up there for carers. So it's been busy at the Art of Decluttering HQ. It's been doing all things that we love and enjoy and taking time. We've just come out of a long weekend, and I just loved, we had so many social events over the course of just 3 days that by the end of it, we were like, we have eaten and talked our way through the whole long weekend, which was lovely. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was the topic of being engaged or entertained. And I'm pretty sure that this just kind of came up. It might even be for the episode of next week where Freya and I talk about what it's like to declutter and organize with kids. She's a kinder teacher. And engaged or entertained has just been rolling around in my mind for the last week or so. And so I thought, what perfect opportunity to jump on and roll it around your minds as well. So the thing that kind of got me thinking is when we spend our money, when we acquire possessions, when we buy stuff, we're often buying it for one of two purposes: to engage us or to entertain us. Now, obviously, there are some things that we just have to buy, like toilet paper is neither engaging or entertaining. However, when it comes to our food, when it comes to the games and the toys and the clothes and the experiences that we spend our money on, all of that stuff actually does often fall into one of these two categories, engaged or entertained. And when I was thinking about it, I thought, this actually makes a lot of sense. Because when we invest in, spend our money on, and look to acquire things that are for engagement, there's a much deeper connection and a much longevity to the products themselves versus when we just do things for entertainment. So I've kind of thinking about engagement like things that make you think. They can be used multiple times. So something for entertainment might be like single use, like going and seeing a movie, versus an engagement where you might buy a puzzle or a board game that you can use over and over again. Engagement encourages inquisitiveness. It's often purposeful. It can be a shared experience, creates memories and stimulates creativity. And those types of things are products and stuff that encourages engagement. Versus entertainment, which is often, as I said, single use. It might be something passive, so you're not really engaged in it. You're just more of a passive observer. It might be something that's done for you rather than something you engage with. So you might be able to buy a skirt, and that's kind of like, it's done for you. You just get it and you put it on, you feel good. Or engaged might be making a skirt and you actually are involved in the process and you know what it takes. And so you might value that item more because you actually have put in your own labor. You know how much the fabric costs and the effort that was required. With entertainment is you might be watching someone else's creativity instead of stimulating your own creativity. And so when it comes to things like toys, games, puzzles, crafts, make-believe for kids, all of those things are stimulating engagement. And you notice when you go and you see children engage for a long period of time, they're much more likely to stick with something when it's engaging. Whereas entertainment, they might sit and watch a show and then get bored and then want to go and do something outside, which is more engaging. And I think this is true for adults as well. I think there is a sense to which there is a place absolutely for entertainment and for being entertained. But there's also a place for engaging in our world and not just being someone who passes through accepts the status quo, isn't curious when it comes to like, well, the things that I'm buying, the food that I'm buying, I'm just kind of shoving it in my shopping trolley versus I actually grew some of this in the garden. Now, what I really, really, really want to highlight for you is that this is not a good versus bad, a positive versus negative, a you should do this versus don't do this. The idea is not that you should always be engaged and never be entertained. It's just that it's something to think about when you're purchasing things. I know when we've got little kids' parties that we go to and you're trying to find a present, I often will try and find something that either engages them, so has longevity in the product. It's something they can use over and over again. It might stimulate their creativity, or it might just engage community and learning to negotiate with other kids. Or sometimes I'll buy something that is purely for entertainment. So it might be they get bubbles, or they get a trip on a mini train thing. You know, we've got a mini train experience right near us. And so it might be something like that. But it's being intentional. I think sometimes where as a community we fall down is that we don't fully define and don't fully know whether something is for engagement or is for entertainment. And so it's tricky to then kind of find the value and the purpose in that if we're not intentional. So I want to chat just for a few more minutes about that after the break, but let's drop to a quick break and I'll be back in just a second. Let's go back to talking about kids' toys. I find the trickiest kids' toys is when you feel like it should be entertainment, but it actually requires engagement. And for those types of things, it can be really tricky to get motivated to get into them. I used to find that with some of the craft kits that the kids would get, and they looked like they would be entertainment. They looked like they would be a one-off, quick do it, paint the thing and then it's done and you throw it out after a week. But it required engagement. And my expectations were all out. And I would be like, oh, okay, this actually requires time and thought and training and mentoring and all of the things that it's required when you're training a child how to do something. I want you to think about when you're dreaming of a holiday. Are you wanting a holiday where you're entertained or a holiday where you're engaged? So an entertained holiday might be going on a cruise. And it might be that you don't want to have to cook, that you want a kids club, that you want multiple pools, that you want entertainment, right? So you're going more as a spectator, and that's what you need at the time. You actually need to really quieten yourself down and allow other people to serve you for that time. Or maybe you're wanting an engaged holiday. And that might look like going somewhere where you can hire an Airbnb and feel like you live in the community, where you're cooking your meals, going to a local market, understanding what it's like to be there and really engaging. It might be going to local shows. It might be talking to the locals, over the course of 2 weeks, getting your favorite local coffee shop. And so in holidays, you can have engagement or entertainment. What about if you're wanting to connect with someone? So certainly there's times when I'm desperate for engagement and I want to sit across from someone with a cup of tea and I just want to talk. I want to look into each other's eyes and just connect. And there's other times when a relationship just requires, memes back and forth for half an hour because that's actually what you need at the time. And I think it is about being intentional in that, because if what you need as a human is engagement, but then what you engage in is entertainment, you're going to feel like you've been ripped off. So if you are feeling lonely and your solution to that is I'm going to be entertained, actually what you're looking for is engagement. And so identifying that can be really helpful. I thought about this in terms of something simple like plants. So if you're buying plants to nurture the plants, to clean the air, to bring life into a space, that's engagement. You actually have to engage with them, work with them, feed them, water them, make sure they get enough light, clean the leaves if they get dusty. Or do you just kind of want fake plants or a room spray? And so it achieves the purpose without that level of engagement. And so when it comes to decluttering, when it comes to acquisition, I think that this is really about being intentional about what you purchase, intentional about how you use your time and your money. particularly when you're buying it for other people, like I talked about the gifts. And I certainly find that when I'm buying gifts for adults, I want to think about, is this for engagement or entertainment? Because entertainment could be like that single use, I'm just going to buy you some beautiful loose leaf tea that I know you're going to use up, you're going to enjoy, but it doesn't require anything of you. And then there are other times when you want to buy a gift that requires something of them. It might be an experience. It might be a board game. It might be a night out just with you and you guys go and do something together. So have a think about how that engagement or entertained can really play out across so many areas of our lives. And the reason I thought it appropriate today is not just because it's about acquiring things and purchasing things and being intentional in that, but that it is also about living intentionally, making intentional purchases, and really freeing ourselves up to live a life of freedom. So I hope that's helpful. It's a bit of a different episode today, but as I said, next week we're hearing from Freya, who's one of my amazing team members, and she's sharing about how to involve kids in decluttering and organising from the perspective of both a parent and also someone who has been in childcare and kinder teaching for many years. And so I know that will be a really awesome episode. Thank you again for listening, for engaging with the podcast. Sometimes the podcast will require you to be engaged and actually take action and do the decluttering. Sometimes it's just about entertainment and listening and just having a friend in your ears. And it's okay that it can be one or the other and both. One's not bad, one's not good. But I do hope that it helps you to think and assess where you're at. Great. Have an amazing week. I'll see you next week. And until then, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au. And I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.